The update celebrating the 40th anniversary of Microsoft Flight Simulator is out, and in addition to the Airbus 320, we now have the more complex Airbus A310, an excellent rendition from AnyBuilds. And this video is aimed squarely at you Xbox pilots wanting to create more complex IFR flight plans for airliners. Let's take your flight planning to the next level. If you're brand new to flight planning, check out my previous videos, both of which are linked in the notes below. Warm welcome back to the Sim Hangar. My name's Mark. Thanks for watching, and let's get started. PC users have it easier because they can import and export flight plans from a variety of sources. The Xbox, because it's a closed console, is far more limited, especially at this time. This means Xbox pilots have got to create their own flight plans. But this doesn't mean that we can't create realistic, real-world flight plans. Or perhaps there's a multiplayer event taking place with a published flight plan. Providing we have access to a PC for reference purposes, we can replicate almost any flight plan on the Xbox. In this video, I'll show you how. Whilst you can create IFR flight plans directly within Microsoft Flight Simulator, for a touch of more realism, if you have access to a PC, you can refer to these two programs. Both are free to use, SimBrief by Navigraph and SkyVector. Let's start by having a look at SimBrief, and the reason you may want to do that is that it will allow you to generate a valid flight path or flight plan. It may or may not be a real-world route, but likely to be more accurate than the one generated within Microsoft Flight Simulator directly. You'll need access to a PC, and you can access it directly via your browser. It's free to use, although you do have to register. Just a note that this is not a tutorial on SimBrief. Today we're only going to be looking at the very basics, but there's plenty of information out there if you want to learn more about SimBrief. To gain access to a flight plan, we go to Dispatch and then select Dispatch System. And here we get the opportunity to generate a new flight plan. SimBrief is an excellent tool with multiple different configuration options. As mentioned, we'll stick to the basics today. We're going to plan a flight from Amsterdam to Copenhagen. In the departure box, let's put in Echo Hotel Alpha Mike, which is Schiphol, and we'll be arriving at Kastrup, Echo Kilo Charlie Hotel. To keep it simple, I'm not going to bother about an alternate. Leave that at none. The next step is to select our aircraft type. There's a wide range available, covering Airbus, Boeing, and so on. Today I'm in an Airbus, so let's select that. Selection choices does include the newly released A310, but today I'm in the Airbus 320, so I'm going to select that. Look for the aircraft you're flying and choose the one closest to that. That's now done. And now, based on current METAR information, it has auto-assigned runways. It will auto-assign the altitude. You can of course change these if you want. And what we're particularly interested in, it has generated a route. And it's this route information that can be very helpful to us putting a flight plan into Microsoft Flight Simulator on the Xbox. We also get a visual representation of the actual route itself. If we want to at this stage, we can now go ahead and generate the flight itself. And the reason you may want to do this, if you're flying something more complex like the Airbus 310, the generated flight creates a lot of information that will be useful for input into the aircraft directly. The flight is now generated, which means it's just created within SimBrief itself. And here we can see information we need to take note of. Runways, altitude, our route of course. It also includes information such as cost index, and also the amount of block fuel required. All this may be useful to you. For this video I'm going to be using this flight plan. It's one I've just generated. Once again, it's from Amsterdam to Copenhagen. We'll be departing runway 36 left and arriving at runway 04 right. Cruising at an altitude of 29,000 feet with a flight time of just over an hour. But what we're most interested in is the routing. I'm going to highlight that and just make a copy of it. Now, because we're on the Xbox, we've got no way of automatically transferring this into Microsoft Flight Simulator, so we're going to have to do it manually. And we can see the various nav points there. Edupo, WSN, Ham, Geska, and so on. In reading this flight plan, we can see it's a straight line between Edupo and WSN, because it says direct. Then it says L23 to Ham. Ham is a VOR. L23 is an airway. And from Ham to Geska, it's the airway Papa 605. If we want to be really accurate in our flight planning, we need to check whether or not it's a straight line between the nav points or whether or not the airway turn. These are like roads in the sky, and not all roads are straight. And to do that, we can use SkyVector to do a quick check. SkyVector is again accessible via your browser and no download is necessary. Whilst we can do flight planning here, we're going to use it for flight plan visualization, so we can visibly see the various nav points along the route. Clicking on Flight Plan displays the flight plan box, and here we type in our departure. Echo Hotel Alpha Mike. And SkyVector will automatically centralize on that airport. We can now just zoom in to get a better look. There's Schiphol. Now we want to check our route. Remember, we copied it from SimBrief. I'm now going to paste it into the flight planning box. There it is, and now hit enter. Just show our route from SimBrief in the bottom left hand corner. We can see it hasn't picked up our standard instrument departure. That's okay, we'll now enter in our destination, and it's entered in a different arrival. Monarch 2D as opposed to the Monarch 3A that we planned. That's because the meta information it's reading may be slightly different. It's auto-selecting different runways. We can ignore the SID and stars. What we're really interested in are the nav points, and if it's straight lines between. Our first main one is the Dupo, and we can see that's a direct line to WSN, the NDB. Then it's a straight line again to Ham, or Hamburg VOR, and straight again to Geska. And we're lucky, straight also to Monarch. After that, it'll be our arrival procedure. So we take note of each one of those points, as we'll have to manually enter them into Microsoft Flight Simulator. But what if there had been a turn in the road, so to speak? Let's just say, for example, that L23 had terminated at Stade, then to Elsob, and then to Hamburg. Well, for our planning purposes, we just have to make a note of those additional navigation points. And in that way, we'd be sure we'd be following the correct route. In this particular instance, it's not a valid route, but I think it makes the point. So we've used SimBrief to establish a valid route, and we've checked that route in terms of nav points in SkyVector. Now it's time to plan it in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Head to the world map, make sure your aircraft of choice is chosen. In my case, it's the A320, and for ease of reference, I'll just keep our flight plan visible. There's the route we want to achieve. First step is click on More, then open Filters, then scroll all the way to the bottom. We want Nav Aids and Fix and RNAV Position Report, both of those on. This will give us maximum visibility of the nav aids, nav fixes, VORs and so on. Right, let's get on and do the route. First of all, we have to pick our departure, which we know is Echo Hotel Alpha Mike Schiphol in Amsterdam. Type that in the search box, there it is, and select it. For planning in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the next step is we must plan our arrival. Before we plan any interim steps, we're looking for Echo Kilo Charlie Hotel, Kastrup in Copenhagen. There it is, and let's select that. And the sim automatically draws a straight line between the 2 points, between Amsterdam and Copenhagen. Well, airliners rarely fly in a straight line, and airliners always fly IFR, Instrument Flight Rules, so select High Altitude Airways. And Microsoft Flight Simulator automates a route. The nav points along that route are indicated along the top. IFR high airways are normally chosen if you're flying above 24,500 feet. We're planning on 29,000. Next, let's select our runway, which was 36 left. That's now selected, and we can select our departure. And referring to our route below, we're looking for the Rend to Zulu departure. Runway 36 left. There it is. We select that, and that's input. And we can see it on the map. And the whole route has changed. That's our standard instrument departure, and it ends at the point Dupo. Just check that, and that's correct. Now we want to plan our arrival, and our arrival is Mona 3 Alpha. Let's see if we can find that here. It's runway 04 right. There it is. Select that. Let's just move the map and check that those changes have taken effect. Zoom into Copenhagen, and there is our arrival route, shown in the green. We're not quite finished here, however. as we are arriving runway 04 right, and we want it to be an ILS approach. There it is, we can select that, and the route again is modified to account for the ILS approach. So our standard instrument departure and standard terminal arrivals are correct. All that remains for us to do is check the route in between. And again we can see in the top bar all the various nav bar points highlighted. We can scroll along. Everything up to Adupo is the standard instrument departure, and our route wants to go direct to WSN. Microsoft has put in LZAP in the interim. Let's delete that, and we delete a waypoint by right-clicking on it and then selecting Remove. The next point we want is the Hamburg VOR. That's not shown, but we can add that in, making sure we select the VOR and not the airport. Let's zoom in so we can find a little bit more detail. Now, where are you? That's a VOR there, a bit northeast of the airport, which is correct. HAM is what we're looking for. There it is. Select it, and we're going to select Add. That's now added to our route. We can see from our route in the bottom right, we should be going direct from WSN to HAM. So we can delete all the points in between. We delete a point exactly the same way as we add them. Right-click on the particular unwanted nav point, select Delete, and it's gone. We now have a direct line to HAM VOR. Let's go on and clean up the rest of the flight plan. From HAM it's direct to Geska, but I can't see Geska. It's not part of the current flight plan. So in this case we're going to have to search for that nav aid, and the best way to do that is to use the search function. Let's type in Geska. It comes up telling us it's a waypoint. Let's select that, and the sim will take us to that point on the world map. And of course we'll add that nav point. Let's zoom out and see what impact that's had. From there it's direct to Monarch. That's fine, that's what the flight plan indicates, so we're okay there. But we should be going direct from HAM. So we've got some other nav points we need to get rid of. That's quick and easy. Once again, select the particular nav point and delete as we go. Done. We can now do a check on the major nav points: Adupo, WSN, HAM, Geska, Monarch. That's correct, and matches the route that we wanted. But we're not done yet. There's still one important element we need to include, and that's our cruise altitude, which was 29,000 feet. We can set that by selecting Navlog. The sim has defaulted to 39,000 feet. That's too high for us and not what we planned. So we can delete that and enter in 29,000. There we are, and that will give us a slightly longer cruise. We're done here, we can now return. If you're creating a flight plan such as this, it's always a good idea to save that flight plan. We can do that by selecting at the bottom bar the Load Save. Click on that, select Save, and give the file a name. In this case, I'm just going to use the departure and arrival airport ICAO codes. There it is, an important point here. I recommend you save it as a .pln. By doing so means you can fly this route with any aircraft. If you save it as a .flt, you'll be stuck with whatever aircraft is selected at the time you saved the flight plan. We're ready to go. One point worth mentioning at this point: if you're flying a default aircraft such as the Airbus 320, then the flight plan will automatically be loaded in your flight computer. For more advanced aircraft such as the A310, Phoenix, etc., this flight plan will still have to be entered manually into the flight computer. To be honest, we've only just scratched the surface, but hopefully this will provide enough to get you started on the more complex and more realistic flight planning options. You can take it one step further by visiting flightaware.com. There you can pick up further information such as the flight number, right down to the actual aircraft flying the route. And if you're into multiplayer events where they publish flight plans, then the information in this video should be of some assistance. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you found it useful and informative. Stay well, take care of yourselves. I'll see you all again very soon, and bye for now.